Now, if you look at the intellectual context of Kant, he was developing his philosophy in the context of Enlightenment, which was already started with the scientific revolution in astronomy, physics, mathematics, or new modes of thinking about organizing individual and collective life. So, Kant was developing his philosophy in the context of Enlightenment and scientific revolution in Europe, and there was also the French Revolution, which had tremendous influence on political discourse across the continent. So, most of the European states were ruled by monarchy, and French Revolution established the desire for a republican form of government. So, it was a kind of transition time, so to say, from one modes of thinking and organizing one's life individually and collectively to acquiring new modes of thinking, theorization about knowledge, self, other, society and politics as well. So, there was a kind of growing belief in science and reason for solving the challenges that humanity faced. So, it was also a time when human beings began to believe in the value of science and reason, and that is in some ways shaped our modernity. So, in belief, in faith or in religious dogmas or spirituality, in contrast to that, modern ways of thinking about knowledge, self, society, community, politics, economy, science, progress, so on, is guided by a kind of limitless faith in science and reason. So, human beings for the first time during this era of enlightenment began to believe in the value of science and reason as the source or as the tool for solving all the challenges that humanity faced. Francis Bacon established the authority of science by arguing that knowledge is power. So, to lead a good life or dignified life, one needs to have the knowledge, and knowledge empowers. Knowledge gives power to the individual, to the society, and there has to be a kind of scientific basis of all forms of knowledge. So, Francis Bacon started this movement which is called establishing the authority of science. Similarly, Descartes established the authority of reason by arguing that human beings are rational and thinking subject, and there lies a kind of differentiation of human species from the other species on the planet. So, in comparison to say animals or other species, human beings are considered to be endowed with reason and rationality. Thereby, human beings are thinking beings, and that enables them to control or shape the prospect that is there in individual's life. So, Descartes believed that human beings are rational and thinking subject. They can think and reason out their existence. So, human beings are capable of, through the use of reason, shaping the prospect of his life or achieving progress individually and also at the collective level by organizing the society in a better manner on the rational principle, thereby achieving prosperity and bringing about all around enlightenment in the life of humanity. So, these ideas of human beings as a rational or thinking subject are encapsulated in his famous dictum. Here is Rene Descartes, that is, I think, therefore I am. So, the very definition or understanding of human being is based on this idea that human existence and identity is based on the fact that they are thinking being, and the ability of think makes a man what they call rational, enlightened man, so to say. So, the French philosopher Voltaire similarly was synonymous with enlightenment thinking. So, Kant was developing his philosophy in this context where there is excessive reliance or trust in the value of science and reason. Although Enlightenment has many traditions within, so one of the thinkers we have discussed in this course, that is Rousseau, was very critical of the excessive use of reason, belief in science and arts as the basis of human progress. He was very skeptical of those kind of values and also regarded as the Enlightenment thinker. And Kant similarly, while acknowledging the role of reason and rationality, also established the limits of human knowledge. So his critique of pure reason, practical reason and judgment all address this question of human reason, rationality and knowledge, the way it operates or function and their limits. So Enlightenment has many traditions within. However, they all argued that all knowledge should be subjected to rational scrutiny. And what does it mean by rational scrutiny, especially in the time of social media, let us say, where all kinds of facts are presented to us, and it is very difficult for us to separate the fact from fiction, and it is easy to believe the prevalent dogmas or strong beliefs that exist in the society. Now these Enlightenment thinkers argued it was also there when there was a kind of religious modes of thinking about planetary system, about human life, the place of earth and so on. In contrast to that modes of knowledge and thinking, these Enlightenment thinkers believe that all knowledge must be subjected to rational scrutiny. That means challenging every beliefs, dogmas, practices in the society in the light of reason. And the knowledge is based on this critical rational scrutiny of all forms of knowledge. Now parallel to the rationalist, there were also empiricists who proclaimed that all knowledge emanates not from human reason, which is independent, but what they call human experience. So major figures of these empiricist school were David Hume, Locke and many others. And Locke argued that all knowledge begins with human experience, and if you recall our lecture on Locke, we have discussed that how human understanding is based on human experience. So contrary to the rationalist belief in human reason and rationality, Locke and other empiricists argue that individual mind is a blank slate or tabula rasa, which is then made to rationalize the self and the world based on the human experience which human acquired throughout his life. So human understanding and knowledge is not something that emanates from his reason, that is independent of his context or experience. Rather, it is based on the empirical existence or the experience of human being. So David Hume was the major proponent of this empiricist school of thought. Thus they argued about the limits of reason alone as the source of knowledge. So in contrast to the rationalist, empiricists argued about the role of human experience as the source of their knowledge or understanding of self or the other in the society. So there is a kind of clear divide between the rationalist and their focus on reason and rationality, and empiricists, their focus on material context and the human experience as the source of knowledge. It led to a kind of growing demand for unity or the wholeness of human subject, their context, their source of knowledge or true knowledge. And rationalists following Descartes created a many distinction or differences between say soul and the body, so mind and body kind of distinction, or reason and feeling. So in modernity there is also this divide that to be enlightened you need to be rational, and to be rational is to do away with your feelings and emotions or passions. So this kind of dichotomy create a kind of divide in the human subjectivity and leads to many contradictions in the society. So, there is a kind of demand for unifying these differences, these categorical differentiation between mind and body, soul and the body, reason and the feeling, reason from the imagination, thought from senses, desire from the cold instrumental calculation through reason, and so on. So, rationalist engagement with the reason and subjecting all forms of knowledge to this rational scrutiny leads to this kind of differentiation, and against that there was a demand for a kind of unified or a kind of whole understanding of human subject and human society. So, excessive reliance on reason led to skepticism. That means you doubt everything, every prevalent customs, traditions, values, norms in the society. You are skeptical to everything basically, and you accept only those things which pass the rational test, which is you subject the dogmas, practices that is prevalent in the society through reason, and once it passed that test, then you accept it. That means you are skeptical to all forms of authority, orders, norms in the society. So, the excessive reliance on reason led to skepticism, and similarly exclusive focus on experience had led to materialism, that what exists is only matter. So, Kant and his transcendental philosophy of ethics, epistemology and metaphysics transcend such dichotomies between the two, and it is encapsulated in no matter, no mind. There cannot be a kind of sharp distinction between mind and the body, matter and the reason. There is a kind of dialogic relationship between the two. So, on the one hand you have in Kant a kind of decisive establishment of reason as the only source of knowledge, and at the same time also explaining the limits of that knowledge. There would be the world which would be inaccessible to human perception or human imagination. That world is called phenomena, that is things in itself, and this we will discuss in the next class. So, here what one needs to understand, that Kant's transcendental philosophy tries to transcend the dichotomies that exist between the materialist and the empiricist and the rationalist.